Hi guys, it's Didi here, and this video is very different. This video is gonna be Q&As because I get more and more questions from you, and as you know, I try to answer everyone. If I haven't, apologies, it might have get lost in my email box, but I really try to answer most of the questions that you send to me. So I decided some of those questions I get repeatedly, and I just decided to do a Q&A video. And if you like this sort of videos, you let me know so that I can decide whether I can incorporate it in our normal monthly schedule. Okay, so the questions, and before I start with the questions, many of you ask me where I am from. Okay, so I come from a small country in Eastern Europe called Bulgaria. It's only 7.3 million of inhabitants. And the reason why I live here in London for over 10 years now is that I moved here with my job. I worked for an American company in Bulgaria, and our headquarters was in the city of London. And then my bosses promoted me and moved me from Bulgaria to here. Originally, I did not have any idea of moving my country. It just life happened. And since I embraced this opportunity, I've been very, very happy to live in London. So when I put away this where I'm from question, I will start with the first from Amra. Amra asks, can you please cover the topic how to raise a child bilingual or even trilingual? So Amra and her husband are from different countries, and both of them, they live here and raise their child in the UK. So they of course have 3 different languages. I'm gonna tell you my experience. Mika is trilingual as well, and the reason for that is that my husband is Bulgarian, so we speak at home only Bulgarian, and he picks up Bulgarian. His Bulgarian is much, much better than his English or Spanish. But then last year we took a Spanish au pair, and she came when Mika was only 2 years of age, and she talked to him only in Spanish, and he was very quick at picking up Spanish as well. Now we don't speak Spanish, for us it's impossible to teach him Spanish or to talk to him. But for Mika it's really easy to switch between Spanish when he addresses her and Bulgarian when he addresses us. He doesn't confuse the languages. Very rarely he would start talking to her in Bulgarian, but not to us in Spanish. And this was not a reason at all for him not to pick up English. He picked up English from us when we talk to our friends who are British or from many other countries and we need to use English. And now, since he started the nursery back in September, of course he picked up English pretty quickly, to the point that now when he plays at home by himself, he would use English. Now people have different opinions on whether they should talk to their kids their native languages when they live in a different country, and I've seen very different varieties. I have friends who are Bulgarians living in the US, and they always talk to their kids in English because they feel that by speaking them to English, they'll have it much easier at school. I don't believe in that. It's not my belief. It's not what I do at home. First, I express myself much better in Bulgarian, and I think it's not going to be fair on Mika. He's not going to know me like who I am, if I talk to him in English, because as you can see, guys, English is not perfect. You know, my English, although I've been living here for 10 years, will never be as good as my Bulgarian is. Second, I understand that Bulgarian probably is not a language that he needs to know in this big world with 7 million population. However, I think that it's important for him to be able to communicate to his grandparents, to uncles, to go there during the vacations, and to really speak an additional language. My mother is half Greek. She's been born and raised in Bulgaria. Her parents never talked to her in Greek, and she lost the opportunity to speak easily a language that now she could have given to us as well. So my opinion is, if you are a foreigner, speak, especially if you're the mom, speak to your child your native language. The father, if he's from a different culture or country, can speak their own language, and the child will have no problems whatsoever to pick up all 2 or sometimes 3 languages. Just a quick example, my sister is Bulgarian, married to Italian. She talks to her child only in Bulgarian. He's 2 years and 9 months old. Her husband talks to him in Italian. At home they speak Italian, and they live in London, so he just started the nursery. This is a child, he already knows 3 languages as well. There are certain myths around learning languages. For years, the speech therapists thought that there will be a speech delay if a child is introduced to 2 languages simultaneously. Now the research shows this is complete BS. It's not true. If your child has any sort of speech delays, first of all, don't worry that much, you know, because some kids choose to speak later, not earlier, of course, get that diagnosed in a way. But the thing is, if your child has a speech delay, it's very unlikely that being introduced to different languages will make this worse. Another myth is that the child gets confused. I can tell you from experience that very rarely the child gets confused, and even if they get confused, it doesn't matter, that they know and they just use the language that they find easier for them at this particular moment. Around me, I have lots of friends married to British and they're Bulgarians or from different countries. Trust me, there is no problem for kids to be bilingual. And one thing is, some moms ask me, is it too late to start if they haven't yet started to speak the language that their native language, for example, to their kids? If the child is 4 years of age or older, it's never too late. Rather start now than later with tutors and teachers. The best time though is between 0 and 3 years. So if you have a baby or a toddler, switch to your native language. Okay, second question is from Alison. And Alison asked me, hi Didi, I have a 16-month-old girl and I'm still breastfeeding. People around me, including my family, think I should stop and I started to feel uncomfortable. I enjoy breastfeeding and it doesn't bother me, but I'm wondering, am I doing the right thing? Breastfeeding is a big topic for me. I did a video about that, so please, I'm gonna link it somewhere above. Go and watch it. First of all, I don't think that your breastfeeding should be business of anyone around you, and people should shut their mouth when you decide whether you want to breastfeed or not. It's your decision, and I know family sometimes wants to help, but that's not a really helpful way. So I know it's hard to switch them off, but just tell them, listen, it's for me and my child to decide how and when I want to do it. And especially if you feel comfortable. Lots of moms stop breastfeeding because they start feeling uncomfortable. If you feel comfortable, just do it for as long as you want. And by saying as long as you want, I mean 3 years, 4 years, as long as you want. I personally breastfed Mika until he was 27 months, and I wish I continued for longer. The reason I stopped personally was that Mika got a bit obsessed, so he wanted to be breastfed all the time, some sort of, I don't know, comfort feeding. And I just did not want this obsession to continue. I chose to stop. I did it in a natural way. I did not disappear. I explained to him that's over, and it is. My sister still breastfeeds. Her child is 2 years and 6 months old, and I have friends around me who are still breastfeeding and their kids are almost 3. Before you react with a pain saying, oh my God, Western countries, how can we, you cannot breastfeed for so long. Trust me, in many societies people do that. And also, the fact is, many moms do it, but they're very quiet about it. So if you feel like breastfeeding is the best thing you can do for your child, you give your child lots of protection and immunity, so just keep doing it as long as you feel it's good for you and your daughter. Next question comes from Laura, and Laura asked me how to deal with her picky eater, who is now 2 years and 4 months old. And she's not the only one who asked me this question. For those of you that don't know, I have a baby feeding program. It's called Baby Meets Food. It's about baby-led weaning and how to introduce babies to solid food. And because of that, I have lots of people asking me questions in the program for their a little bit older kids, or how can they make sure that right from the beginning they start their babies on healthy solid foods, and how to make sure that their kids would like eating a different variety of food. So it's a question I always receive from you guys, and I think I'm going to do a separate video for that because I think it's a topic that deserves a separate video and more attention. But for today's video, just 3 very quick tips. First of all is engage your child in the cooking activities, not only in the cooking and chopping, but as well buying vegetables and fruits, taking them to the farms, showing them how the carrots are coming out from the ground. Because when the child is involved in the process, they're much more likely to try the food. What I mean by that is, for example, now I ask Mika to help me chop the carrots and the cucumbers and the zucchini when I cook. So some sort of easy things. I ask him to help me every time when I do that. And he never liked cucumbers and carrots before. These are not the vegetables that he would eat. But because he is taking the time and the effort to cut them, and he enjoys the process, he actually started to eat cucumbers and carrots. So that's one of the ways, get them interested into food. The second thing is try different textures. And what I mean by that is that we often label our kids, or we often say, oh, my child doesn't like this, my child doesn't like that, and we don't really offer it to them. I am very careful not to say things like that to Mika, because I can feel sometimes I want us to say the same thing. For example, my sister offers us lentils and I'm like, oh, Mika doesn't eat lentils. How do I know? Maybe I offered him lentils once and he didn't eat them and then I just gave up. So my advice to you is give it to him. Never make a big deal out of food. It's very important not to give rewards related to food ever, because that's how you condition them in a way that is not healthy in the long term. And also just give them something, cook it differently, cook it again differently. And some people say that the French try about 20 times before they give up. And the third thing I can give you, the third quick tip is, don't serve the same food 2 consecutive days. What I mean by that is that some parents say, oh, my child only likes pasta, so every day they cook pasta. Or my child only likes potatoes, every child almost likes potatoes. Then they cook potatoes and give potatoes every day. Make sure that 2 consecutive days you give them different foods, because that would expose them to variety of foods. When you travel, make sure that you order different things so that they can see that in different countries people eat different food as well. These are 3 very quick tips that I'm sure that can help, but the most important thing, guys, in relation to picky eating is you are the role model. So many parents forget that. If you eat a bad diet, if you eat bland food and pasta and bread and calories all the time rather than nutritious food, you cannot expect your child to eat differently. So make sure that you adjust your diet and you show them that food can be very, very enjoyable and it provides a great diversity as well. Next question comes from Maria, and Maria asked me, hi Didi, when did you start traveling with Mika? It seems you're traveling a lot. How do you do that with a little child? We can't seem to organize ourselves even for a short trip to the countryside, and it looks so effortless for you. Right, okay, so yes, we travel a lot, and the first trip we took was when Mika was 3 months. We went back to Bulgaria, and then since then, we traveled, I think, when he was 6. Again, we went to Bulgaria, and then we went to Greece when he was 9. We went to the US when he was exactly 1. We've been across the ocean 3 times. Mika is now 3 years and 4 months, and he's been, I think, to 12 countries. And it may seem effortless, but it's not that effortless. But at the same time, it depends on your attitude towards traveling. We love traveling, we always traveled a lot, and when we had Mika, we decided that we're not going to let having a child change that, because if it's something which you enjoy doing and like doing in the same way like we do like skiing, if Mika doesn't like skiing, it's going to be a big problem for him, because he'll still go skiing. He'll have to adjust and he'll have to adapt, and if he doesn't like it, he'll have to do it without really liking it. But I truly believe that we still need to do the things that are important for us. Of course, if traveling was bad for him, we would not do it because we care about how he feels. But I think he enjoys it a lot as well. And I think that their generation will travel much, much more than we do. So if I have to give you tips, maybe I can do a video again about that. But my main tip for you would be, if you want to travel, the benefits needs to be more than the drawbacks. So if you be super stressed about the whole preparation of luggage, about the food that you're going to eat, about the place where you're going, and this is not going to be enough to outgrow the benefits, then maybe you can just decide to stay home and save the money. When you travel, I have simple rules, depending on the flights and how long the flight is. I always have food for Mika. Usually this food is super simple, something like sweet potatoes, banana pancakes. I can link recipes, guys, above so you can see them. Butternut squash, something which is not messy, because I don't want to count on airplane food. And I want to make sure that wherever we arrive, in whatever destination we're going, he would have something to eat immediately, because it could be late, it could be that we cannot find any shop. So food, sort out the food, one big thing. Second, get an Airbnb, somewhere where you can wash clothes, so you don't have to be in a hotel. If you're in a hotel, it's a little bit more complicated, but if you can cook and if you can wash clothes, you don't really need that much luggage. I have lots of friends around me with kids who decided, they booked trips, they were almost going, and then last minute they're like, oh, it's too much hassle, we're not going to do it, it's too much hassle. I personally felt the same way, at least on 2 occasions, when I was like, why am I doing it? I'm so stressing out about the whole trip, why am I doing it? But the minute I'm there, I'm always happy I did it. So just create some sort of structure around your trips. And if you want me to do a video about my main tips and how we travel, I can do that easily, guys. How long? How much time so far? 50 minutes. Okay, we don't have much time. I don't want this video to be very, very long, guys. So I just tackle another question. Maybe I won't. Yeah, I knew that there was another one. So Ashley asks, hi Didi, thank you so much for your videos. I find them very useful. Thank you so much, Ashley. And she asked me what's my take on routines. I am not the best routine person ever. At the same time, it looks like because of our traveling and our schedule, Mika does not have an exact routine, but he does. Every time before he goes to bed, he has a shower, regardless where in the world we are. We don't do baths, we do only showers since he was very little. And every time we read at least 2 or 3 books, his favorites at the moment, before he goes to bed. So he has a sequence of steps that he knows about and makes him feel comfortable, regardless of where on the world we are. That said, in the sense of do we have a strict routine that he needs to be in bed by 6:30 or 7 o'clock? No, we don't. And the reason why we don't is because of our lifestyle, and also because, again, as I said, I just don't believe that it's not that detrimental for them. If I know that something is bad for me, I'll never do it. But I have not made my mind up about whether that's detrimental or not. Because if you see when kids are going to sleep in the evening, that would vary depending on the culture. Lots of kids here in the UK, in the US, they would be put to sleep about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening, and they would sleep continuously until the morning. Whereas in countries like Bulgaria, in Spain, in Italy, in Mediterranean countries, kids don't go to bed before 9:30, 10, and in the summer much, much later. Because in these countries, we somehow feel that it's more important for a child to be part of the life of the family, the dinners, the guests that we have, to interact with all these people that come around us rather than being in bed. I remember 10 years ago, I worked in the Netherlands on a project, and one of the colleagues I had there, he had 3 kids. That was in 2006, so it was the World Championship of Football, and Holland was playing. And his child was 7 years old, and he was a very avid football watcher. So he wanted to stay up for the game and watch the game. And the game was starting at 6:30, I think, until 8:30. And he said, unfortunately, my child will need to miss the game because he needs to be in bed in 6:30. And for me at that time, I was really shocked. For me, it was like, okay, can you make the exception? Just because it's a game, it's once every 4 years, and maybe potentially never again, Holland will be there. So can you just allow your child to stay for another 2 hours? And he says, no, we don't do exceptions. For them, they know that 6:30 they're in bed. So I'm not this person. I don't say anything. I don't judge. People have their own ways, and maybe it works for them. I think that when we have guests, when we go somewhere now around Christmas, around the holidays, we've been up until 11, 11:30, and we had great fun with so many people coming and visiting us, with so many places we took him as well. When we travel, we go to Spain, to the sea. Next week, we're traveling again. Every time we go somewhere, he's with us, exploring the culture and seeing all these things. Does he get enough sleep? I guess so, because then he has an afternoon nap. But again, the most important things when you decide on routines, especially in relation to sleep, you need to think about, is your child okay? So what's the best for your child rather than for you? But at the same time, is it good for me as well, so that my life doesn't suffer that much? If you ask me about routines in relation to food, I am very much about those. When I started making on solid foods, I did the baby-led weaning. I was very careful, so he would have the breastfeeding at certain times, a little bit more flexible about that, but then he would have lunch exactly between 12 and 12:30, then dinner between 5:30 and 6:30. So I think routines help. Again, you have to see what sort of person you are. Anyways, I think that this video became very long, and if you have many other questions, please guys join me and follow me on Instagram, because Instagram is the easiest place for you to ask me questions. Many of you ask me questions on my Instagram stories, so I would appreciate, I think it's one of the easiest places for questions. If not, you can always ask me questions in the comment box below, and many of you are just sending me emails. If you want to send me an email, you can either do that at didi@smartparentstories.com or didi.tonev@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your questions. I hope I'm adding some sort of value for you guys. Comment in the comment box below. What do you think about the routines? I am really interested about this particular topic now because I'm making up my mind as well. And I'm hoping I'm going to see you next Tuesday. Bye guys!